Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. My name is Jacob Charnow, leading the next generation of sports fans live on the Hard Count Football YouTube channel, and of course, right here on 1252 Sports Chicago. Guys, we have our Super Bowl matchup. The LA Rams are technically the away team at the Cincinnati Bengals, even though the Bengals are playing their Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium. So technically, they're at the Rams. It's very confusing, but it's Rams versus Bengals at SoFi Stadium next Sunday. Right now, the Rams are 4-point favorites. The points total is 48.5. Super exciting matchup. I can tell you, I never thought that I didn't think the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl. No one thought the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl this year. I was all in on the Rams. The Rams were my pick in the NFC since they traded for Stafford. That comes to fruition, obviously. I promise you, if you go back and you look at everyone's preseason predictions, including mine, I don't think I had the Bengals winning more than 4 or 5 games. I'll admit I was wrong. And I promise you, nobody thought that they would make it to the playoffs. No one thought they would make it to the divisional round. No one thought they'd make it to the AFC Championship. And nobody thought that they would be in the Super Bowl before the season. I told all of you last week the Bengals were just they were a better matchup. They were better matched up against the Chiefs than it looked. That wide receiver core was too much for the Chiefs to handle in the second half of the game. The Chiefs, they were up 21-3. They absolutely fell apart. Some dumb decisions coaching, in my opinion, going for it at the goal line instead of taking the field goal at the end of the first half, kind of put everything into motion for the Bengals to come back and win that game. But good for Joe Burrow, good for the Bengals. I'm not going to give my score prediction right now because I have to save that for next Sunday, for Super Bowl Sunday. But I can tell you who I think is going to win the game. And to talk about this game, I need none other than Mr. Harry the Greek to come in here. Harry, let me hit you with the harp, of course. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing real well.
Hey, we have a weather check because down here it's miserable today in Florida. We have overcast skies, a little bit of rain, and it's going to be like a high of 62. It's chilly. I can't stand it.
In North Jersey, it's 18 degrees and sunny today.
Oh, I'll trade you. I mean, the sun, but it's sun shining.
But it's still 18 degrees, Harry.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. We got a lot to talk about. We got the Super Bowl to talk about. There was the Senior Bowl yesterday, which was very exciting to watch. I don't know how much of that you caught on, but I have a few notes from it that I loved.
Never watched it. I had to work a day yesterday from hell. Let me tell you something. It was busier than I've ever seen it.
Listen, I'll get you updated on everything that happened, all the prospects that look good. We'll talk some coaching hires. The Raiders hired their coach. The Jaguars hired their coach. The Saints are interviewing some guys today. And of course, we're going to talk some free agency, some trade destinations for possible trade candidates. And so, I mean, let's get right into it here. Let's talk Super Bowl first, man. Bengals, Rams. I mean, I just said it. Nobody thought the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl at this point, right?
When they got into the playoffs, you gave the Bengals a shot in every single game, Jacob. Props off to you. I didn't. There was just no way. They weren't supposed to beat Tennessee. Come on.
I had the Bengals winning. I actually had the Bengals winning every they were playing.
Yeah, but I did kind of like, look, I thought Kansas City was going to beat the brakes off of them as well. But when I started watching the game, I was like, man, can you imagine what this team's going to look like when they get 3 or 4 offensive linemen? Forget about defense, okay? Forget about the defense. Just 3 or 4 offensive linemen. Wait till they protect this kid Burrow. This Bayou Bengal, let me tell you something. He's the real deal, period.
So you look at that, right? And we look at the matchup between the Rams and the Bengals, and you mentioned once they get 3 or 4 offensive linemen. But listen, they don't have them right now. And they're playing against a Rams team with probably the best defensive line in the entire playoffs, right? Aaron Donald, Von Miller, both are playing like they're in their prime, right? I mean, Aaron Donald's silent throughout the year just because he's getting quadruple teamed by every team that he's going up against. He's really come out of his shell in the playoffs this year. Von Miller looks like he did 6 years ago, right? They
definitely turned it up a notch. I'll tell you that, man. That defense turned it up. But I said it before. I said it before the season started. They were going to be the best team in the National Football League. Then they had that little bit of a lull, and then I was like, I'm still going to stand by it because playoff time, it's going to be a different ballgame.
Yeah, the Rams, I mean, listen, you look at every single aspect of this game, every single matchup. The Rams have them covered in almost every single aspect of this game.
So did
Um,
Tennessee. So did Kansas
so
City.
exactly here. That's the thing. I to be fair, I thought the Bengals. I knew the Bengals were better than Tennessee. I knew the Bengals were better than I knew the Bengals were going to beat Kansas City, or at least I thought they would. I knew they were going to cover. I did not. I predicted them to win the game, but it ended up working. But I was very iffy on that one. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it was a lock that I knew the Bengals were going to beat the Chiefs, because
No,
obviously it wasn't.
you liked them. You didn't think
Right.
they were a lock. You liked them, but you never said anything about being a lock. Yeah, I
No,
will go back because that's on tape. I mean, my hats are off to you. You definitely picked the Bengals a lot better than I did.
yeah, I just I'm looking at the Rams, and I don't know if the Bengals are going to be able to handle this Rams defense. I really don't. They've had great safety play so far, great defensive line play, great linebacker play. They have a problem, right? I'll be honest, they've had a problem at corner throughout the playoffs. Darius Williams did not look great in that game against the Niners. Jalen Ramsey has been getting burned a little bit throughout the playoffs thus far. And the Bengals have a loaded wide receiver room, and they have a ton of weapons, and they can hurt you so many different ways offensively. And the Bengals defense has really stepped up during the playoffs. I don't know. Some games, the problem with the Rams for me, some games they come out and they look like the best team in football. And then sometimes they come out like they did in the beginning of the game against the Niners, and they look incredibly beatable, right?
Yeah, I just don't know how. It's not so much how can the Rams stop Cincinnati with their defense. It's how is Cincinnati going to stop the Rams offense? That's just
Yeah.
look, man, they're just too deep everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Rams will completely nullify Cincinnati's running game. They will
Oh
that
yeah.
will be out after the first two series, that will be out the window. It will be throw, 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 and it's just going to Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald, and it's just the list. And the other D end, we were just
Von,
talking about Von
Von Miller.
Miller. I mean, it's just that team is just so deep, man. I just look and to believe it or not, it was only -4 when the line opened. I couldn't push enough money into the middle. I don't know what the line is because I'm afraid it's going to drop to -3, I mean, no, I'm not drop. I'm afraid it's going to drop. It's going to drop the other direction. It's going to be as high as 6 and 7 points. I just wanted to get it when I could.
Yeah,
And even he agrees.
I've picked I've picked the Bengals throughout the whole playoffs. It's just hard to look at this matchup, and I it would be great for the Bengals to win, right? It's awesome for Cincinnati to win a championship in football. It really shows in the 2 years.
You're freezing up, Jacob.
That's a problem. How am I now?
That's all right. No, you're still frozen up a little bit, but I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, cool. It's hard. It's great for football for Cincinnati to win a championship.
Right.
Man, it's hard to look at this Rams team, but then again, it's hard to doubt the Bengals, right? Everyone's doubted them throughout the whole playoff so far, and it's come back to bite them in the ass, right?
Yep. I'm going to be rooting for the Bengals, but I bet on the Rams. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I never bet with my heart. I'd love to see Cincinnati for what this team has gone through, the past 30 plus years to win a Super Bowl when everybody picked against them. It's the great underdog story. But you know what would even be better? Is when you sell your soul to the devil to get to the pinnacle, okay? And then to blow it. And then can you imagine what happens to this team in a couple of years? It'll be tore apart and then they're screwed for a long time. I would laugh. It would remind me of what the Washington football team or the Washington,
No, no,
whatever
no.
they
The
are.
Washington Commanders, Harry.
I'm going to call them the Commandos. Okay. I mean, why did you change your name? At least Washington football team had some kind of nostalgia to it. I mean, I'm going to say it. The Redskins were my favorite. Washington football team, it kind of grew on me. Commanders? Really?
I liked football. I liked the football
I
team.
love the football team.
I thought it was I thought it was great.
Hey,
I don't know.
you got some pretty good comments here.
Barry Bonds and the whole. No, he's not. Which is that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. It's some ridiculousness. Christian Watson, wide receiver out of North Dakota State, had an awesome week in mobile, absolutely, and definitely helped his draft stock. Would love to see him paired up with Justin Fields in Chicago.
Yeah.
Christian Watson, man, they were really hyping him up on the broadcast yesterday for the Senior Bowl.
Is he that good? I didn't see him, Jacob.
He had a great week. He's not a first round talent, probably not a second round talent. But if you can grab him, maybe late second, third round, he could really help your team out. The problem is this wide receiver class is so deep.
Yeah, I don't want the Bears to take a wide receiver early like that. They need to go early and often on the offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, right? Jameson Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Traylon Burks, who's great. Christian Watson, you get Jahan Dotson. These are just first, second round guys, right? And then you get deeper in, and there's always some late round guys that blow up. It's all about where you go. So I love this receiver class. I'm sure I forgot to name a few guys. But this isn't a draft. The thing about this draft, Harry, this isn't a draft for quarterbacks. This is a draft if you want to get your defense right. The edge class is bonkers deep, right? You're going to get guys that fall to the third round that are day one starters this year.
What do you want to bet that you get a quarterback in this draft class in the first 3 rounds that ends up being a superstar?
I don't see one. I've been really watching this tape, watching them practice, watching all this Senior Bowl stuff, whatever. There's not a single guy. There's 2 names that I like.
Who are they?
I love Desmond Ridder, the quarterback out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And I love Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty.
What did you like about the kid from Cincinnati, considering they were really a run team and a real big defensive team? Just out of curiosity.
For the most part. Yesterday when I watched,
sorry, because you broke up.
It really depends on the offense here. Let me try and reconnect this. It really depends on the offense that he ends up going to. You want a guy who, if you're drafting Desmond Ridder, you run a lot of play action. You're a really run heavy team. A good team for him to go to, I think, is the Indianapolis Colts. I think they could really use a guy like him. My thing with Ridder, you can't ask him. One, he's not day one ready. None of these quarterbacks are day one ready. But you ask Ridder to develop a little bit. City year comes in the year after. I think he can really be good. We saw him roll out quite a bit yesterday in the Senior Bowl. Made some really nice throws. And a guy who I was high on that I'm not so high on now is Carson Strong, the quarterback out of Nevada. He just didn't. His arm didn't look too strong. He was making some bad decisions, and he just didn't. The thing is, when you get a quarterback out of Nevada, a school like that, you put him against some real talent, like in the Senior Bowl, see him start to struggle a little bit. That's incredibly concerning. And I love Malik Willis. The Steelers, it's been coming out. The Steelers love Malik Willis also. It's no secret he's their favorite quarterback in this draft class. And I think he'll be a first round guy. Oh, I love Matt Corral. I think if there's anybody that's going to bloom into a star, it's going to be Matt Corral, the quarterback out of Ole Miss.
Right.
But I'm telling you, this isn't a draft for quarterbacks. It's not. You want to get your defense right? Now's the time to do it. You need a corner, safety, whatever. This is the draft to do it. Offensive linemen. There's a few of them early. It doesn't get too deep there. Guy whose draft stock rose, Trevor Penning, offensive tackle. Not a deep class. If you need a wide receiver, you need all that. This is the time to do it. If you need a quarterback, now is not the draft. If you need a guy who can start day one, it's not last year. You're not going to be able to find guys like that, you know? Oh, and the tight end class this year is incredibly deep.
Do you think so?
Yeah, much deeper than.
Give me some of the tight ends that you like.
Trey McBride, man. Trey McBride is, he's the consensus tight end one. He plays at Colorado State. He's the consensus tight end one. He looked great yesterday. Personally, I want the Jets to get him because I think they could really use him. And he really fits their offense. Yesterday, the Jets coaching staff was coaching the national team for the Senior Bowl, and they had Trey McBride, and they had him doing a lot of those tight end routes that the Jets like to run in their offense. And he was really, really solid. So I like him.
Any other tight ends you like? Are there any player or any of these players in really, really small schools?
There's one
I like the deep
corner.
picks. I don't want the Adam Shaheens from Ashland State, Kentucky, somewhere in that neighborhood. I want a solid player off that nobody's ever heard of. I don't care what position it is, so I can mark it down and I'm going to track it, see where he goes to, and then all of a sudden he just ends up blossoming. And that way I can mark this tape and say, you know what? This is why this young man sitting next to us is smarter than anybody that I know, especially when it comes to this game. The draft included. Sorry, Andrew Faubert,
All right.
J.C. Allen. Sorry, all the people. This guy right here is unreal.
All right. You want a name? You want a deep name?
Yep. I want a deep name.
Small. All right. All right. Cornerback. I like him. I'm really high on him. And I don't think he's a first round guy, maybe not even a second round guy. Tariq Woolen, cornerback out of UTSA, is going to be
UTSA, University of Texas.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really
Texas
good.
Texas State. I have no idea. Seriously,
I think it might be University of Texas, San Antonio.
Okay, that is what it is. What's his name?
Tariq Woolen. We'll see. I
bet 2 games in UTSA this year. Okay, I bet 2 games, and because of the fact that they were getting so many points at one point, I was like, I got to take them. I mean, they covered. Not only covered, they won. How about that? They won.
Right. It's because of this guy.
You know what? I see that this is sparking up a little bit. Not so much of a debate, but there you go.
It's Troy Polamalu. It's whatever.
Yep. Christian Shanafeld says commies. I agree. I can't get behind it. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
Malik Willis has the highest ceiling in my opinion, but I'm not sure there is a sure thing. No, absolutely not. There is not a sure thing quarterback this year at all. The Jets have a bright future once they develop. Funny.
You know what? That's a good one, actually. That might be comment of the day for Troy. Seriously, that is kind of funny.
Shadir Sanders, Jackson State. That's Deion Sanders' kid. He's a quarterback. He's actually pretty good. I don't think he's in the draft though this year.
So wait a minute. He's playing for his daddy?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Good. And he's good. He's good. Dallas Flowers, Pittsburgh State. So yeah, he's pretty. I haven't done a lot of research on him. I haven't done. I mean, I have 3 months till the draft. I really go into it after the Super Bowl ends, and I don't have to worry about all that. But right now, I'm looking at the first 2 rounds. Then it starts to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and then by April 29th, I'm familiar with every single player in this draft.
I know that. Hey, I got a question for you. Will you take $1,000 to throw the game for me?
What do you mean?
How about if I pay you $100,000? Can you tank this game?
$100,000 to tank the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, I'm Brian Flores now.
Yes or no? Would you do it?
Would I do it? No.
Uh-huh. I wouldn't either.
No,
I wouldn't either. I think a man has to stand on his principle.
Yeah, if I'm Brian Flores, I have my morals, my whatever. I don't want to lose on purpose because then they fire him, right? Then he loses, and then they fire him anyway, and then he doesn't have another job because he was losing constantly.
Yep.
You know, so
yeah, I have some yes or no questions for you. Did you believe that Hugh Jackson was offered the same thing? Because there was an article that came out that where there was smoke, there was fire. There was no truth to it, and he's actually backpedaling on it. I guess he's saying now the media has taken off with it and misconstrued what he said. Did you hear anything about that as well?
I heard it came out that he wasn't actually getting paid to lose. I heard that they weren't trying to win though. He wasn't getting paid to lose, but they weren't trying to win, One of the McCourty twins, whichever one played for the Browns.
He was quoted saying that he was put words in his mouth. And last but not least, because I just can't help myself, I want to get into this narrative a little bit. Do you think when Brian Flores, Coach Flores, who by the way I like a lot, interviewed with the Denver Broncos, not only were they late an hour, okay, Coach, I'm sorry, John Elway and I don't remember who the other person was, but do you believe that they were late an hour and they were drunk when they showed up? Or do you think that's the media making issues of this?
I'm sure there's some truth to it. I don't know how much
I
truth, but
believe he was late an hour, but I mean, drunk, really?
yeah, I
I
think he
hear I hear John Elway is really upset about those comments.
yeah, probably. I mean, it's you're dragging his name through the mud. If it's true, it's true, but I'll
Right.
never admit that. You
Where
know,
does Brian Flores end up? Because I'm going to take a stab. I'm going to tell you where I think he ends up.
I think he's gonna get. I mean, I hope he doesn't get blackballed out of the league because he should not be. Um,
No, he ain't getting
he's
blackballed
he's a
out of the
great
league.
coach.
He's too good of a coach.
Do you think he ends up getting hired this cycle?
If he doesn't, Jacob, if he doesn't, the National Football League has a lot of explaining to do. The end. Absolutely the end. Where I think Coach Flores is going to end up, in my opinion, the New Orleans Saints.
That's what I was gonna say, but I just don't. I
He's
think
got
they.
to get hired this cycle. He didn't do anything wrong. Okay, in
No,
my
no,
opinion.
no. I think they're gonna. If he gets hired this cycle, it'll be the Saints. That's about it. I think they go with Bieniemy. I honestly think the Saints are gonna hire Bieniemy.
Do you really? Has he been interviewed yet?
He's getting interviewed today.
Oh, he is getting interviewed today. I wonder if
Yep,
they're going to have a second interview with him. That'll be that'll be the telltale sign. I'll tell you what, especially to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you haven't heard the last of. Oh, can you hold on just for a second? Make yourself full screen.
sure. There we go. So yeah, we'll pull up some of these comments while we're doing it. Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. He slipped my mind. Absolutely, Isaiah Likely is a great tight end. He could hear his name be called between rounds 2 and 4. You're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. He does a lot, not a lot of the same things. I think Trey McBride, I think, is just heads above a lot of these.
Sorry.
I think he's just heads above a lot of the other tight ends. The only thing that concerns me with Trey McBride, he just seems less. I don't want to say athletic's the wrong word. He just seems less fluid with his
Yeah.
route running than a lot of other. But I'm not going to say there right. Gronk doesn't look like a great. He's not a great route runner. He doesn't look like he knows what he's doing when he's out there, even though he's one of the best tight ends of all time. You can't judge based off how. Trey McBride passes the eye test for me. Watching him, he can block, he can catch, he can do everything that you need a tight end to do. He's not a receiver. And last time there was a receiver like tight end, his name was Evan Ingram, and it turned out to be a bust. So,
Yeah, I remember that. But what I was saying about the Tampa situation, because the two hottest commodities, they had one A and one B. It was Byron Leftwich, and it was Todd Bowles. I haven't supported Byron Leftwich since he's been around, especially under Bruce Arians. I'm not a big Bruce Arians fan. Okay, I don't believe in that type of mentality of coaching an offense. Okay, the risk it, no biscuit. You have great running backs, you don't utilize them. It almost reminded me a lot of Matt Nagy, and believe it or not, it reminded me a lot of an ex-New York Jet head coach. The difference was he had a lot more of a supporting cast to be able to identify. But anyway, Bruce Arians, in my opinion, I think he's got a lot of decisions to make. I have a funny feeling. I think he may step down. That's just my own opinion. I think they're setting up Byron Leftwich to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And
I think that's next year.
you think it's next year?
I think Arians has one more year.
And that would be the detriment to this football team, in my opinion, because if you noticed, everybody's like, "Oh, we're gonna lose Byron and Todd." Brother, he had an interview with Jacksonville. Here, can you name the other teams? There were speculations that the New Orleans Saints were very interested in him. They didn't even set up the interview. Nobody, absolutely nobody interviewed Byron Leftwich. And he's not even the most deserving on the team. In my opinion, it would have been Todd Bowles, in my opinion. I like Todd Bowles as a head coach. There was nothing wrong with him.
But Leftwich didn't not get hired by the Jaguars, right? Leftwich took himself out of the running to be the Jaguars head coach. And I
Why?
think it speaks more.
Why?
I think that might speak more to the Jaguars than it does to the Bucks' future plan.
It
I
does
think
really. You don't think it has something to do with a first-time head coach saying that I have to have control of the entire football team and decisions on who they're going to draft?
I think that
Who's Byron Leftwich?
I think he wants control, and the Jaguars aren't going to give it to him. I really think that Trent Baalke or whatever Trent Baalke, I don't know how to pronounce his name actually, but
I know who you're talking about, but you understand what I'm saying.
all these guys, it's such a dumpster fire, right? When we look at Jacksonville, it's not like Detroit, because Detroit's not a dumpster fire of an organization right now. They have a good they have a good GM, I think a solid head coach, and they're trying to turn this thing around, and they have a plan to do it.
Mhm.
The Jaguars are all over the place, and every time you think that they figured it out, maybe, then they go and hire Doug Peterson.
Which was the correct hire. Okay,
I
he's a proven head coach, and he didn't even go in there with the expectations that the point I'm trying to make is this. You have a coordinator, okay, that has only been to the Super Bowl and won it. He was not the head coach. He wasn't the one making the decisions. Look, that was a store-bought team that absolutely went all the way and they won it. You have another coach in Doug Peterson who faced adversity, took a mediocre football team, made them great, won a Super Bowl. Okay? Those are the differences. And the other point I'm trying to make, and there's going to be people out there going to say, well, Byron Leftwich did the right thing by not taking the job because they think that organization's a dumpster fire. My hats go off to a coach that wants to take that team and be the consummate team player to bring them to fruition rather to futility. Byron Leftwich didn't get any other interviews. So how great is he?
I think I think the reason Byron Leftwich didn't take the Jaguars job is because of Todd Bowles. And let me explain why.
Oh, this is interesting.
I think that when you look, and Byron Leftwich wanted to bring in his own general manager. If you're a first-time head coach, you want to bring in your general manager. And that makes complete sense. I completely understand that. My problem is that when you look at a first-time head coach, and Byron Leftwich looks at what happened with Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles goes to be the head coach of a Jets team with poor ownership, a poor management in the front office, poor general manager, all that, and a poor roster. Now Todd Bowles goes 6-10, 7-9, and then wins 4 games, he gets fired in 3 years. And now, right, he's not even getting interviews in this cycle. Now it's going to be hard for him to really get another head coaching job because he was
did Byron.
Mediocre head coach the first time.
But neither did Byron Leftwich, Jacob. That's the whole point I'm trying to make.
If Leftwich goes to the Jaguars and Trent Baalke and their GM pulls the same shenanigans that he has for the last however many years,
right?
Now all of a sudden Leftwich is gone in 3 years with Baalke. And then people are looking at what happened when Byron Leftwich was the head coach of the Jaguars and saying, there's always so many good options. Why would we want a guy that went in and won 3 games, 4 games, and then 5 games, or 5 games and then 4 games and then whatever, got fired in 3 years? Why would we want to bring him in to be the next leader of our team?
Great point.
He had Tom Brady, right? Certainly doesn't help his case that he had Tom Brady playing quarterback for him.
Okay, well that brings me to the point that I wanted to bring up to you now. Okay, so let's just say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to keep him, and they made him go ahead and try to turn down the job or ask for too much, whatever the case may be. The point I'm trying to make is Byron Leftwich, in my opinion, asked for too much control. For those reasons, the National Football League team just said no. It was like, No, I'm going to take option B. We can still have a little bit of control and a proven guy that's already been in the National Football League. But here's the point I'm going to try to make because Jacob just made it. Said, why would he want to take that? Because of the poor ownership, because of Todd Bowles. Hold on. Who's to say that this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team's not going to get tore apart next year because Bruce Arians is leaving? You don't have Tom Brady anymore. You don't have a quarterback that is a Tom Brady on that roster. However, in my opinion, if they go outside the organization and get an Aaron Rodgers or they get a Russell Wilson, this team here in Tampa Bay is in trouble because now you have to learn a completely different blocking scheme for a mobile quarterback to a stationary to a statue type of quarterback. Okay, a pocket passer.
I don't,
Well, let me finish. Let me finish. There's a reason for my madness, and you can rebuttal. So let's just say they don't get these two quarterbacks and they stay with a Blaine Gabbert. And now you've lost Cameron Brate, you've lost Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, Chris Godwin. Hold on. An aging defensive line. And now you have a mediocre team and you set this team back 5-6 years. And now you have Byron Leftwich as your head coach. You put him up there and you're going to try to make a Super Bowl run. Tell me how that's going to work and how that's more conducive than taking a Jacksonville job where they're not expected so much, where you still have a chance of developing the number one overall pick of last year's draft.
okay,
Explain that to me. Now you understand where I'm coming from?
I do, but man, if Byron left, and here's my thing with the Bucks. I don't think that they're going to try and go after an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
I really do not. I think that they like a guy sitting there at 30, whatever pick they have, 28, 27, or they pair some nice picks together, trade up 15 picks, take a guy that they like, take a guy like Matt Corral, take a guy, trade up for a guy like Kenny Pickett. I truly think that that's a possibility. Or, and you mentioned how you have to learn a whole new blocking scheme for a guy like
Absolutely.
or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. Who's to say that they don't get Tom Brady's true successor and they don't make
Jimmy
a move
Garoppolo.
for Jimmy Garoppolo?
You know what?
But
That would actually work in Tampa Bay, in my opinion. Okay.
the only
Because
problem is that if Byron Leftwich is the head coach, they refuse to still run the damn football. And if they try and rely on Jimmy G to throw the ball, they're not going to win more than 6 games this year. Next year.
I think they're gonna be forced. If Byron Leftwich is the head coach, I think they will go ahead and utilize a running football, a running game. That's just my opinion, because you can't put the ball in Jimmy G's
Right.
hands.
And they know
Jimmy Garoppolo's biggest attributes are uh, setting up the pass via the run. Let me tell you something. Jimmy G quietly had a phenomenal year throwing the football. He threw for almost 4,000 yards and he missed like 5 football games. That's incredible. Okay. But his success came off the run. I still think that Kyle Trask is the answer. He's a prototypical style of quarterback. He's a good pocket passer. He's very smart, scales the pocket very well, has a really good arm. I don't know much about his decision making other than what I seen in Florida, and it was marginal at best. But then again, all quarterbacks can grow depending on the system that they're in. But Blaine Gabbert is your stopgap quarterback. You don't have to give up draft picks. You still have a very good team that are around you. You can draft to fill in a couple of holes. And I'm going to tell you what Carson Palmer said. The great Carson Palmer said about Bruce Arians back in 2017, quote unquote, in your very first year under Bruce Arians' offense, you will throw the most interceptions you ever have. It'll look like you forgot how to play and how to read a defense. But in year 2, it just starts to take off. And the deep pick that I would take, but Tampa fans want to like throw bricks at me when I say this, you need to go out and go get Jameis Winston. It doesn't cost you a lot of money, because if they can run the football and he already knows that offense, I think he cuts down on the mistakes.
See, I flip it. I think the Saints should re-sign Jameis Winston. I think that's their best option at quarterback.
That's what I think.
The Saints were 5-2, 4-2, 4-1 with Jameis Winston playing quarterback.
I'm just saying he won't make as many mistakes. You want the best quarterback for this offense? It's going to be not Byron Leftwich. It should be Jameis Winston, and then the next one would be currently on the roster, and then which is Blaine Gabbert, and then it would be Kyle Trask.
Mitch Trubisky. Why not?
Nah, Mitch Trubisky's going to the NFC South, bro. I'm telling you, he's going there or he's going to Washington.
I want him to go to the Giants. I think that's the best thing for him.
You know what? I agree. I think he deserves a chance.
Yeah, let's talk about this Raiders hire a bit.
Sure.
Because I probably have a different opinion on it than you do, unless
I don't have much of an opinion. I'd love to hear yours, though.
So Josh McDaniels gets hired by the Raiders after so many rumors of Josh McDaniels getting hired as a head coach every single year for the last 4 years. And this is big. I think this is bigger than the McDaniels hire. They poached former defensive coordinator for the Giants, Patrick Graham, to be the Raiders' next DC, which is a great hire for them.
I like that hire.
It's a great hire. Josh McDaniels, if the Raiders try and run a Patriot-like offense with Derek Carr, it's not going to work.
Why? Why don't you think that would work?
Because Derek Carr is so much better than a Patriot offense than what Mac Jones did last year. I know it got them to the playoffs, but the Raiders don't have the defense that the Patriots had.
That's true.
The defensive schemes, they don't have Bill Belichick, right? This is not Harry. I like the hire in terms of a leader, and I can't look on the past and dwell on the past, but there hasn't been a Belichick hire that is really a Belichick tree hire that has really worked.
And you know what? Especially McDaniels. I thought he was a flop when he was the previous head coach. Okay. And I thought there were a lot of other coaches that were far more deserving than McDaniels to become a head coach. In my opinion, I thought a perfect fit for the Raiders would have been a Brian Flores. It would have been the OC from Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. Why does my brain not work today? I don't get it. Eric Bieniemy.
I was all in on them retaining Rich Bisaccia, the interim guy that they had after they fired John Gruden. I loved what Bisaccia did. He was a leader. The players defended him. Apparently, they were upset when they found out that they weren't retaining him. He was a leader for he took a team that battled through adversity, and everything that happened with Ruggs and Gruden and a literal head coaching change, and took him to the damn playoffs, Harry. This is a team that was dragged through the mud.
I'm kind of laughing here. I'm kind of chuckling looking at a comment. I got to put this up for you. Troy Polamalu says Marco Smith, Kaiser University. Oh God, Christian, tight end Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina could hear his name called somewhere between rounds 2 and 4. That's a small school.
Yeah, I talked about this one already. But Likely, yeah, like I said, Likely's a very, very good player. Hungover, not drunk. Leftwich, Bowles. Yeah, I don't like either of them as head coaches.
Me neither. I like Bowles though. I'm telling you, man.
He's fine. He's not a lead. You need a team. If you want that, you have to go to a team with a loud, or he needs to make loud hires, because it doesn't seem like he's really a leader. And it's a hard thing to say, but he just wasn't a loud coach.
How are you a proven mediocre head coach, Troy?
I'll tell you who's a proven mediocre head coach. Jeff Fisher is a proven mediocre head coach. 7-9, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 7-9.
Super Bowl.
Oh, has no business. Yeah. I meant the last 3 years he was in St. Louis. Hey fellas, I don't know who that is, but
that's Michael Hughes from the Mike on the Mic.
Gotcha. What up, Mike? Oh, Harry, as a Bear, is there any names that you've really looked up as a Bears fan for the draft?
No.
You guys,
honestly, my time gets so consumed in handicapping in professional sports that it's very difficult for me. So when the draft comes around and I make these guest appearances like on your show, I'm like, wow, absolutely, bud. The last draft show that I did was down at Ferg's, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those people were watching the whole 9 yards. I'm sitting next to our buddy, right? And we're talking about him, and he says, "What do you think of this player?" And it was the same answer every time. Man, what a high motor! Never gives up on a play. What a great character. What a great guy.
I
And when
I
and
like
Joshua yeah, and Joshua says to me, "You ready?" quote unquote, and he goes, "You know, he went to jail last week, right?" And it's, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was his brother, though. I mean, I was kind of my mistake."
I
What do you think of this guy? Great motor, buddy.
when you watch the draft, I think it's so funny how they every time a player gets drafted, it's every player. They're like, yeah, they're like, he, you're like, he's a great player, all this, and then they're like, when he was 6, like his dog was unfortunately run over by a car, which motivated him to get good at. They give him like the saddest. They said like the saddest sob stories
Hey,
about
I
like,
had 4 of the first 10 picks correct. I don't know how many people had 4 out of the first top 10 picks correct, and I did know one thing. My buddy in heaven, Mr. Patrick Searcy, God love you. You still owe me a steak dinner, and so do about 300 other people because Mac Jones didn't go to San Fran. I said it. Everybody said it. He wasn't going there. And everybody
yeah,
disagreed with me, including Mr. the Great Peter Blake. He still owes me
I
a steak
didn't.
dinner. I can't even
I
get him
said
buy me
that.
a
I didn't.
hamburger.
I was all in on Mac Jones to the Patriots. I thought all that San. There was no way they traded up for Mac Jones.
As soon as the Patriots, not the Patriots, as soon as the 49ers took Trey Lance, it started looking more and more like it, and then the Bears jumped everybody to go get Justin Fields. I could see you on your soapbox going, "He's going to the Patriots." It was like you were correct. I mean, it was unbelievable. So to answer your question, when it comes to the draft, do I like anybody? Yeah, whoever you like, brother. Because I'll tell you what, this is your wheelhouse. That's why you're the
Yeah,
guru
it's my
of the
favorite time of
draft,
year.
and you're the guru of handicapping fantasy football. It's just
I
unbelievable what you
love
do.
this is my favorite time of year. I love draft season. March, okay, I'll give you this. March is the most boring month of all time for football. March is so brutal because like it's like a weird time in between, like between the Super Bowl and like free agency, right before free agency starts. It's like this lull period where we're
Right.
really gonna have to find stuff to talk about, Harry. It's gonna be we're gonna have to really come up with stuff. A lot of mock drafts. A lot of mock drafts.
Oh
A
boy. Are you
lot
sure
of
we just can't talk about who we like in baseball? I
yeah.
mean, I do have a show called The Over Under. It's pretty damn good. I can tell you that. We talk about baseball things. We might even give some picks out about basketball. And maybe we'll sprinkle a little hockey in there once in a while. No soccer though, sorry.
No soccer. I think we'll have to find stuff to talk about during that time. But draft season, I love it, man. I love it. I'll obviously be live for draft night as always on April 29th, I believe. April 29th, April 20, something like that. I'll give you an
Okay.
exact date. I'm super excited about it though. This is gonna be a fun draft because it's so unpredictable this year, right? Because you don't have a consensus number one pick, and then once everything in that top 5 can change because
Right.
there's the chance the Jaguars go with the logical pick, which is Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, by far the best tackle in this draft. I think by far the best lineman in this draft. Or they can go with the consensus best player in this draft, which is Aiden Hutchinson, right? The edge out of Michigan, he's a real stud. But if you want to develop your quarterback, do you waste number one pick on a tackle, or do you really try and like hammer down on this defense that was so good for the Jaguars just 4 years back, right? Hey, what if you're the Jaguars, are you going offensive line, or you're going defense?
You got to go offensive line, man. You got to protect that prized possession. You got all that invested. You have to. I mean, don't you agree with that, or am I wrong on it?
No, you see, I agree. I think Evan Neal should be the pick, um, for the Jaguars. But once again, it's the Jaguars. So, and until they change management, it's hard to say anything about. To be fair, though, Doug Peterson, the hire of Doug Peterson, the fact that he built up that Eagles offensive line was so important to him. I think that kind of helps the chances of Evan Neal going number one this year. Christian, draft season is the best. Absolutely. I like having someone in the comments that actually that can give us
Knows what they're talking about.
that knows what they're talking about when it comes to the draft. There is no offseason of football. Certainly not. There's just a weird lull period in between the
And
Super Bowl and free
and
agency.
here comes the tribal troll himself, the man with the plan.
Trace McSorley is greater than Zach Wilson. He's
Hey,
not.
you know what? He's not. But you know, want to know something?
McSorley was pretty
I
good. Buddy.
really like McSorley though. I really did. I thought he was a fight. You know who he reminds me of? I'm glad you brought that up, Troy, because finally you bring some substance to the table. Okay. You know who he reminds me of? Heineke from the Washington. What are they now called? How about
The
Washington?
Washington. From Washington.
The quarterback for Washington. He reminds me of Tyler Heineke. I mean, tell me he doesn't. It's the same type of player. I mean, it's
Oh, he
just
does.
literally utilizes his legs. He's kind of short. He still has a pretty good size arm, and he's just. I'll tell you what, I really like him a lot.
Yeah. All right, Harry. Well, I'm gonna let you get out of here. Enjoy the Pro Bowl today. I'm sure you'll be watching that.
The Pro Bowl, me
The Pro Bowl,
watching the Pro Bowl.
yeah, the Pro Bowl. And as a note to everyone, I don't even need Harry to say it, guys. Don't even try and bet on the Pro Bowl. Don't bet
El
on the Pro Bowl.
Paso, baby, El
Oh,
Paso.
yeah, El Paso. All right, Harry, go ahead, tell everyone where they can find you.
I'll tell you where you can find me. You can find me Friday nights on the Over Under Live here on 1252. On Monday and Wednesdays, you can find me on the Sports Web with Peter Blake on the YouTube channel. And that's about it. You're going to get all the picks. We're going to start giving picks out next week for the Super Bowl, some proposition bets. Might even have a couple of special guests, like a young gentleman by the name of Jacob Charnow, who's never made an appearance on a Friday. But we just might be able to get him in there because we're going to be talking some of his favorite things. It's called proposition wagers. Thank you so much, Jacob, for having me on, buddy. Okay.
Yes, sir. If you say prop bets enough, it might. Yeah, I think I'll just appear no matter where I am.
Hang on.
Yeah,
Don't say that 3 times
that's not
because
me. That's not me.
he ain't
No,
coming up.
Josh Rosen's not me. It's
Are you sure?
yeah. I got if you talk draft enough, I'll jump on.
You know, if we say Fat Mike 3 times, he all of a sudden appears too.
I don't know.
We're
I'm
not
looking.
doing that today.
Yeah, we can't try that today.
He's tired. He had a really good time. He was celebrating Fred Hubner's retirement. They were over at Nick and Ivy Brewing out in Lockport. They had a really, really good time. I
Absolutely.
don't know that to be for sure, but I was invited. But it was just a little bit of a drive for me. It's 1,200 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right,
Take
Harry.
care, Jacob. Thank you.
Peace. All right, guys, and with that, we're going to wrap today from the Hard Count Football Podcast Live. My name is Jacob Charnow. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Special thanks to Harry the Greek for coming on, talking Super Bowl, talking draft, talking off season, whatever it is. He's always here to talk about it with me, and I really do appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at Jacob Charnow, Instagram at Hard Count Football, guys. Check out all the other shows from 1252 Sports Chicago. There's a lot of great stuff going on here. And subscribe to the Hard Count Football YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Going to help me grow, guys. I'll see you all next Sunday morning.